Everyone has the ability to manipulate. Even as young kids, we lie and deceive our parents, or at least we try. As we grow and learn about ourselves and other people, the manipulation tactics we encounter become more sophisticated. It can be hard to distinguish between manipulation and honesty. So, we decided to explain the most comprehensive list of manipulation tactics as fast as possible. Ready? Let's go. Aggressive jokes. When someone makes a joke at your expense, they're not only trying to manipulate you but also those around you. This tactic is used to exclude you and make you feel like an outsider. The person who makes the jokes will often downplay what they've said or brush it off as just a joke, purposefully making you feel bad. Anger and fear. Emotions can be effective tools of manipulation. For example, getting angry at you over something very small can be a way to control you and keep you in line. They may also gaslight you into thinking that their emotional response was appropriate and valid when it was not. Blackmail. Blackmailing is when someone has information or evidence about you that can be used to threaten you into doing something you don't want to do. Blackmail can be a criminal offense in some cases. Blaming. Playing the blame game is a manipulation tactic often used in relationships. If someone is particularly insecure, they may blame you for their mistakes to alleviate their guilt or embarrassment. Boundary violation. Manipulators want to see how far they can push you. If a boundary you have set is in the way of something they want, for example, if they want a sexual relationship and you do not, they may push or even break that boundary on purpose. Boundary pushing is usually paired with guilt tripping or gaslighting to make action seem less distressing. Changing the subject. When a manipulator is caught in a lie or is embarrassed about being wrong in some way, they will change the subject to distance themselves from their behavior. Later on, they might try to gaslight you by changing what they said or explaining things in a way that is more favorable to them. Coercion. Coercion covers a few other manipulation tactics like blackmail, guilt tripping, and threatening. It refers to the general goal of trying to convince you to do something you don't want to do. Criticizing. Manipulators need you to feel insecure in order for their tactics to work. They may disguise their criticism as care or thoughtfulness when that is not the case. Manipulators will then immediately follow up their criticism with a solution that benefits them. Crowd manipulation. Using strong and emotional words is a way politicians often use to influence crowds into believing a situation is more dire or more positive than it is. Manipulating a crowd to get them riled up or excited is typically done by appealing to the crowd's emotions or flattering them. Denial. It is extremely common for people to deny what they've done when they've done something wrong. It typically happens when an insecurity has been exposed. We learn this behavior from a very young age. Everyone knows a kid who would say, "I meant to do that," when you confront them and tell them they messed something up. Downplaying. When a manipulator is called out for their behavior, they may instinctually downplay it. This can often be done through self-deprecating jokes or overly long explanations for their actions. They may try to make it seem as though their actions were actually for the greater good. Emotional blackmail. If a manipulator knows what affects you emotionally, they may try to use that against you. A common form of emotional blackmail is threatening self-harm. Fake moralization. When a manipulator knows you will disapprove of their true intentions, they may try to disguise it as virtuous. This can present itself in numerous ways, claiming to be oppressed, flaunting their good virtues, or trying to tell others what is and isn't good are forms of manipulation tactics that would fall under fake moralization. This can be an especially difficult tactic to detect. Some people are genuinely oppressed or they want to call out harmful behavior, so it can be difficult to tell whether they're trying to manipulate or be helpful. Flattery. Sometimes manipulators will try to win you over using flattery. An example of this would be if someone said to you, "You're smart, so I'm sure you would agree with me." Gaslighting. Gaslighting has come up a lot so far. It is a common deceitful tactic where the goal is to convince you that what you know is wrong and has been wrong the whole time. Gaslighting can come with blaming, denial, and downplaying. If you have 5 Easter eggs and they took one, they'll try to convince you they were only 4 the whole time. Generalizing. Generalizations are made to convince you of something. They could be using stereotypes or oversimplifying to purposely make things appear better or worse. Generalizations can often be vague, saying things like, "Well, you know how they are," implying that someone or a group of people can be stupid or overly sensitive is a generalization, designed to make you feel like you're part of something and therefore more likely to side with the manipulator. Ghosting. Typically used in relationships, ghosting is the act of disappearing or ignoring someone who's trying to contact you. The goal of ghosting is to keep you unsure and insecure about your relationship and to influence you to believe that they're so important that your time with them is precious and should be cherished more. Guilt tripping. Guilt tripping is another way to use your emotions against you. They will use guilt to shame you for doing the things you want to do and for going against their wishes. They can use anything from religion to dead relatives to make you feel guilty. Hoovering. This is when someone, typically a romantic partner, changes their behavior when the relationship is nearing its end. If you ever get to the point of wanting to break up, or if you show some indication that you may leave them, they will change their behavior in drastic ways. Suddenly they are a different person, making large gestures, love bombing, or making threats of self-harm to suck you back into the toxic relationship. Infantilization. This is when someone speaks to you as though you're a child or mentally impaired to make it known that you are not well respected or that you are not on the manipulator's intellectual level. Isolation. In relationships, a manipulative partner may see your family and friends as threats, so they will try to manipulate you into separating yourself from them. From there, you will become entirely reliant on your partner and they will be able to slowly control every aspect of your life. Love bombing. This tactic is especially effective for people who lack a sense of love in their lives. If someone comes along who pours an impossible amount of love on you, it could be enough to get you to do anything for them. This love doesn't last long, however. Once they have what they want, they will show you little to no attention or even ghost you. Lying. Lying is probably the most commonly used manipulation tactic. Avoiding the truth and influencing what people know is the most basic, instinctual tactic we know because it is so easy to lie. A lot of other manipulation tactics are just grand ways of lying. Passive aggression. By being passive-aggressive, the manipulator can't be called out. They can easily claim that they were just joking, not being sincere, or not being purposefully aggressive. Playing on insecurities. This is another tactic in the same vein as emotional blackmail or guilt tripping, where it is done to use your emotions against you. The manipulator might say they love you despite your insecurities, making you feel like others wouldn't put up with the things that make you feel insecure. They may also exploit insecurities like a fear of getting cheated on by joking about cheating or excusing cheating. Projection. When someone is trying to manipulate you with projection, they will turn the accusations back on you. If you try to say or do anything to resist their manipulation, they will claim that you're trying to manipulate them. For example, someone might be trying to guilt trip you. If you don't give in or if you call them out, they will turn it around and say something like, "You're trying to gaslight me into thinking I'm a bad guy. You're trying to manipulate me." They have projected their bad behaviors onto you to avoid criticism. Shaming. Similar to guilt tripping, the goal of shaming is to make you feel bad. Where guilt tripping is usually used when you're going to do something, shame is often used for something you've already done. This can have many effects in different contexts. In relationships, shaming someone can be a way to control their behavior and make them want the manipulator's approval. Shifting the goalpost. When someone shifts the goalpost, they are changing the agreed upon rules to benefit themselves. Your boss might ask you to do something very specific. When you do it and it doesn't work, they try to change what they wanted. This is done to make them appear more virtuous when things don't work out for them, or so that they aren't responsible when things go poorly. Smear campaigns. A smear campaign is when someone spreads negative rumors or disinformation about you to manipulate what people think of you and to damage your reputation. The silent treatment. This is another manipulation tactic that many of us learn at a very young age. Usually used in arguments, the silent treatment puts the burden of communication onto the other person. It's also used in relationships when someone feels that their partner is not fulfilling their needs. Rather than talking about it, they stay silent to make their partner feel as guilty and stressed out about it as possible. Threatening. We also learn about threats from a young age. They're fairly straightforward, with a manipulator telling you what they will do if you go against them. In relationships, an example could be, "If you go out with your friends tonight, I will break up with you." As you can tell from this example, threats can also pair with other tactics like isolation. Triangulation. Triangulation is a manipulation tactic that aims to exclude you. This can occur when someone goes to your friends and tries to get them to turn against you. This is often done to get your mutual friends to go against you as well. It always involves other people having to choose the right side. It doesn't just apply to friend groups. Parents may also ask their kids to choose their side, dividing the family to be against the other parent. Victimhood. Finally, victimhood is used by manipulators to try and milk people for their pity and compassion. This can be especially effective if they make it seem as though you're the only person who can help them. Whew, how do we do? Are there any manipulation tactics we didn't talk about? Let us know in the comments below. The best way to defend yourself against manipulation is to be firm when you disagree with someone. Back away from someone if you feel like they're manipulated and get someone else's opinion if you aren't sure if you're being manipulated. Remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. and subscribe to Psych2Go for more videos like
Things
this.
like, I'm so sorry, this is such a dumb question, but... Or maybe someone was in a hurry and ran into you and all you say is, sorry, was I in your way? Okay, hold up, that's a bit too much. But do you feel like you apologize for almost everything? Even when you're not in the wrong? Being sorry and apologizing for certain things is an important aspect of being polite. You've been learning about it your whole life. But were you taught about the things you shouldn't apologize for? Why do you do it? According to Juliana Brains, PhD, an assistant professor of psychology at the University of Rhode Island, over-apologizing can stem from being too hard on ourselves or beating ourselves up for things rather than recognizing everyone makes mistakes and no one expects you to be perfect. To remind you that it's okay to not be perfect, here are 8 things you shouldn't say sorry for. Number 1, for having an opinion. According to Manhattan psychotherapist Panthea Saidapour, those who over-apologize often feel like a burden to others, as if their wants, needs, and thoughts are not important. This feeling can stem from many different roots, one of them being feelings of inadequacy as a result of childhood trauma. Because of that, you may feel ashamed of having an opinion, or maybe you're afraid to openly disagree with someone. But as long as you're respectful towards everyone and don't purposefully insult others, you're entitled to have an opinion. Even if somebody doesn't agree with you, you don't have to change your attitude and values just so they fit someone else's point of view. After all, having and expressing your own opinion is what shapes you as a person. Instead of saying sorry, try saying, I respect your opinion, but I disagree. Number 2, for putting your needs first. A family therapist, Kelly Hendricks, says that you might over-apologize because you want to be seen as a good person. Maybe you were praised for putting others first and learned that it's best to sacrifice yourself for others, or to think less of yourself. Being kind is something you should definitely strive for, but neglecting yourself is not the way to do it. You might believe thinking of yourself is selfish, but when you think about it, isn't it selfish for others to make you put yourself last? Sometimes everything can get so overwhelming and you just need to take care of yourself without feeling like you're letting others down. Instead of saying sorry, try saying, I need some time for myself, or I'm not comfortable with that. Number 3, for turning your phone off. You know when you just wanna watch Netflix without talking to anyone, but your phone constantly rings with messages, notifications, and calls, and you can't get even 1 second of alone time? And you just wanna turn it off or put it on silent, but you don't wanna be rude by not replying. Taking time for yourself and not being available for a bit is not rude. And everyone needs a break from time to time, including you. So don't feel bad for putting the online world on hold for a bit. Instead of apologizing, say, I'd like to enjoy some alone time tonight. So did you relate to these 3 points so far? Let us know in the comments. Right now, more people than ever have been struggling with mental health, which is why we're more dedicated than ever to creating more content. If you find this video relatable, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to Psych2Go to show us your support. Number 4, for showing your feelings. Things happen that can make you feel a range of emotions. Anger, frustration, fear, extreme happiness, sadness. Having and expressing emotions is what makes you human. But sometimes you may feel like you're being a burden if you express those emotions. You think you're annoying people around you with your feelings, and you feel tempted to say, I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you. As Professor Brain says, when we apologize for feeling hurt, or even for feeling passionate about something, we minimize ourselves in a misguided attempt to protect others. Try to remember that no matter what, you have the right to feel and express your emotions. Instead of saying sorry, try saying, I'm struggling and need support. Number 5, for crying. Similar to showing emotion, sometimes life gets you down and you just need to have a good cry. Have you experienced feeling better after crying? Like the weight on your shoulders suddenly became lighter. That's how crying can help. But when you're around people and you feel the need to cry, you may feel embarrassed and afraid. What will they think of you if they see your tears? So you try to swallow your tears and start apologizing. But you're not crying on purpose. It's something your body just does, like sneezing or coughing. And just like you, everyone cries sometimes. So if someone wants to judge you, that's their problem. Don't feel like you did something bad if a tear escapes. Instead of saying sorry, try saying, oh, this got me emotional, or I need a moment to calm down. Number 6, for the way you look. say nothing and own your appearance. Number 7, for not taking other people's advice. How often do the people you're close to give you advice on how to live your life? Your parents think you should find a better job, even though you love what you do. Your partner thinks your hobby is boring and suggests you do something else. Your friend thinks your hairstyle is bad, but you like the way it looks. They might get their ego hurt if you don't listen to them because they think they're right and can't comprehend why you wouldn't listen. But why would you? It's your life and your choices. It's okay for them to offer suggestions, but it doesn't mean you have to follow them. Instead of saying sorry, say, I appreciate your opinion. I'll think about it and make my own decision. Number 8, for apologizing. Sometimes you really feel bad for things, whether you're in the wrong or not. Maybe it's because you feel guilty about something, or you have a low self-esteem. You feel the need to say sorry. And even if you apologize for the wrong things or apologize too much, that apology is still sincere and comes from the heart. There is always time to better yourself. If you really want it, one day you will gain the confidence that you need to stop apologizing for everything. Until then, remember that not even apologizing is worth an apology. How to stop over-apologizing once and for all? You may be wondering, well, what can I do to stop feeling like I need to apologize all the time? Luckily, there are some things you can do to help yourself. First, try to delve deeper. Ask yourself these questions. In the past, who's been unable or unwilling to meet my needs? Am I apologizing out of fear? What have been my experiences with conflict in the past? Would apologizing mean accepting blame that doesn't belong to me? Next, replace the self-defeating thoughts. Psychologist Mary Plouffe suggests transforming self-defeating thoughts by considering these questions. Is there anything useful that can come out of my holding on to this thought? If not, how can I transform it into something I can use to help me? Does it reflect the truth or just my worst fears about myself and the world? If you'd like to, you can share your answers in the comments. And finally, we always strongly advise seeking professional help. Therapy could help you understand yourself better and learn some helpful tools to get your confidence back. Growing as a person is not linear. And even if you find yourself failing, watch this video again as a reminder of why you started. And don't apologize for needing a reminder. Do you agree with these points? Do you think you're ready to take control of your life and your individuality and stop saying sorry for the wrong things? Let us know in the comments. If you like this video, share it with friends and family. And as always, the references and studies are listed in the description. Take care, and thanks for watching. See you next time. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. This African proverb beautifully describes how someone who gets hurt remembers the pain, while the person who does the hurting typically forgets. This proverb also comes to mind when we bring up parenting. From your early years, parents and parent figures shape your behavior, emotions, and sometimes even thoughts. But do your parents' actions affect you later on in life? Keep watching to find out if your family might have shaped you into who you are now. The anger tutorial. The walls of our family home can sometimes trap us. Have you experienced your family yelling on top of their lungs, even for the smallest of things? Maybe they don't yell. Maybe they just speak hurtful, abusive words that cut right into your heart. Maybe the abuse turned physical and made you seek comfort in the corner of your room. If you, unfortunately, witnessed aggression from an early age, how did it shape you later on? It's possible that you solemnly swore that you'd never repeat the same mistakes your parents did. It's also possible that all those things you witnessed snuck into your subconscious and turned into learned aggression. In 1971, Canadian psychologist Albert Bandura came up with a social learning theory. This theory states that social behavior is learned by observing and imitating the behavior of others. Unfortunately, this includes all of the negative behaviors as well. Let's say, as a child, you observe your parents screaming and aggressively slamming doors or throwing objects at each other whenever they argue. This may become the learned behavior. When you grow up and a colleague, friend, or partner upsets you, you may react in the same way without even thinking. You might get passive-aggressive, yell, or even break things out of anger. In some cases, you might catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and recognize your parents' image, or it might go completely unnoticed. Stone cold. Would you describe your parents as warm or loving? A 2018 research study published in Journal Frontiers in Psychology defines parental warmth as support, praises, and displays of affection and tranquility. It's about your mother's arms being a safe haven and your father's voice scaring the monsters away. At first glance, this seems logical. Aren't all parents supposed to be kind and caring? Even if warmth was a basic parental instinct, some parents, for whatever reason, are emotionally unavailable and cold-hearted. Take, for example, Monica Geller from Friends. Monica's mother, Judy, was often critical and emotionally distant, which left Monica feeling unsupported and unvalued. As a result, Monica struggled with self-esteem and turned to food for comfort. And like Monica, as you grow older, you may begin to search for sun rays elsewhere. But you may still feel the consequences of that cold winter, known as your childhood. As shown in a 2019 study published in Social Science and Medicine, the warmth that your parents showed you when you were young is linked to social, psychological, and emotional well-being in adulthood, even as late as midlife. You may have trouble coping with stress, fall into depression, or look for comfort in drugs or alcohol. Taking care of yourself becomes difficult because maybe you're not even sure what it looks like to be taken care of. Go away. Dealing with cold, unloving parents leads to another wound you may have experienced as a child: rejection. Can you think of a time when you felt like you weren't accepted by your parents? Maybe you excitedly showed them your drawing and waited for a good job, but you were instead told not to bother them or to go to your room. Maybe you craved a long hug after a lonely day at school, but were told to go annoy your siblings, back into loneliness. To a child, this rejection can mean something too scary to even think about. It sends the message that they are simply not good enough. When you become an adult, those messages stay deeply hidden inside your mind, a learned behavior. Licensed mental health counselor Stephanie John told Psych Central that rejected children often grow up to experience difficult self-relationships, including self-doubt, self-neglect, self-sabotage, and self-hate. In a way, you learn to reject your own self and believe that you're not as worthy as others are. This is not true, of course, but it's hard to escape that mindset. Talking to a mental health professional might be a great way for you to learn how to accept yourself for who you are. Nothing's off limits. Of course, not all parents are aggressive, cold, or neglectful. Some of them can be very nurturing and loving toward their children. They shower them with hugs, kisses, encouragement, and gifts all day, every day. But too much of a good thing can easily turn into a bad thing. This type of parenting can sometimes forget that at least some rules and structure is needed. And it's hard for them to set the rules because they want to be your friend so badly. That's why they might let you watch TV the entire day, never bother you about your homework, and let you munch on sweets before lunch. It may sound like every child's dream, but do you think parents like these raise mature and successful adults? Take the kids from Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, for example. Veruca's parents indulge her every whim and pamper her to an unhealthy extent. Mike is allowed to spend all day in front of screens. Augustus's parents indulge his lack of self-control, and Violet's constantly given to her chewing gum obsession. Encyclopedia of Infant and Early Childhood Development almost perfectly illustrates how they turned out. It says that children raised getting everything they want tend to lack self-discipline, possess poor social skills, may be self-involved and demanding, and may sometimes feel insecure since they lacked boundaries and guidance growing up. Also, a 2019 study published in Frontiers in Psychology shows that these children may struggle academically too. They never really had any expectations put on them, so they don't really bother succeeding in school or career. In this parent's eyes, they may be just trying to make their kid happy or give them everything they never had, but in reality, they're doing their child a great disservice. Based on the research, it's safe to say our childhoods can affect our lives later on. Look, if you have kids or are a parent figure to one, you know how hard parenting can be. But it can be very easy to make good choices for the sake of your child's future. If you believe your childhood is impacting your life, contact a mental health professional to learn more. Do you recognize yourself in any of these examples? Do you think that your upbringing played a role in who you grew up to be? Let us know how in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Want to know more about how your childhood influences your life? Check out How Your Childhood Influences the Way You Express Love.